Well, welcome back. Greetings, and this is a lesson we're going to continue in the Pentatonic Scale. Just to recap real quick, lesson 1 was learning the fretboard both horizontally and vertically with some unique mnemonics to help you remember where the natural notes are on the fretboard. Lesson 2 is about chord basics, and not to confuse flatted thirds and flat thirds, which confuses a lot, even intermediate players. Then we had a couple of songs to learn, Knocking on Heaven's Door and The Beast of Burden by the Stones. And then lesson 5 was about the Pentatonic Scale. Then I had lesson 5A, because it's a continuation a bit of the Pentatonic Scale. We spent a little time learning a simple blues kind of rhythm and a fancy ending on an acoustic guitar. Now this is going to be lesson 5B, because we're going to go into more detail on the Pentatonic Scale that I think will be helpful for not just new players but also intermediate players, because I really try to put together some. It's amazing how everything sort of links together, and I think in this lesson we'll be able to see how all the various pieces of the guitar, the scales, and the chords all link together. So I switched to electric guitar because we are going to get more into sort of some rock and roll as we proceed. And just for those who are concerned about equipment, for a small little amplifier, Black Star is a nice little amp. It's got some settings for equalizer and tone and some other things for delay and things. So you get some decent sound out of it, and it's about the size of a tissue box. So for those of you who are in dorms or college apartments that are small, you can pick up one of these Black Stars. They work great. They sound good too. And it's a practice amp, but it's a nice, small, compact practice amp. So that said, let's get on with the lesson. Let's look at the first thing I want to talk about is the pentatonic scale and these 5 positions we talked about. Today we're going to go through 4 of these in some detail and how they could be used for major, minor, and how they could be tied to the chords. So when you want to solo and play over chords, you have a good structure, good architecture underneath you, and an understanding of how the guitar is put together. So the first thing we want to talk about, as I guess in the last lesson, we took the 5th fret number 5 here, and we said that was like a ground floor. So I'm going to use the analogy of a staircase. So everything above the staircase, we're going to play this in minor. We're going to take position number 1. And oh, by the way, the position numbers I'm using are for the minor scales, because position 1 is position 5. Position 1 here is called position 5 in the majors, and position 2 here in the minors is called position 1 in the majors. To simplify it, we're going to go with the sequence, the numbering sequence used in the minor scale. Okay, so this is position number 1, which is like the most simple position that you find that all beginners learn with too. Where if I take my guitar and I move it up a fret, this is here they're showing on fret 3 to fret 6. We're going to move it up a little bit, but this section here, where your bar chord across the entire fretboard, I'm going to call that the ground floor, the staircase ground floor. So let's go in a little bit closer. So the 5th fret here, we'll call the ground floor. And this is the standard position 1. It's 8-5, 8-5, 7-5, 7-5, 7-5, 8-5. Okay, you got handouts in the previous and in this lesson as well on the positioning. Now, if you play it from the 5th fret here, you get the minor scale. I'll probably only play the higher part just to save time when I'm illustrating things. So that's the minor, right? That's the full scale. If you play it from up here from the 5th fret, now, well, before we do that, let's look at this ground floor, and we take that position and shift it down to the bottom like we did in the last lesson you saw, and this becomes A major. Right? It's A major. Same fingering, the same position. This pattern right here, position number 1. This is, and I'm using the 5th fret as my ground floor. Ground floor is here. Above it is minor. Below it is major. And the other thing you can do with this, we talked about last time too, if you start on the 8th fret, you get a C major, which is the relative scale. So A minor is the relative minor for C major. And that's going to become more important, and I'm going to show you how to keep track of that. Knowing the relative minors will help you with your soloing, because you'll know quickly where to move to different positions to continue a solo. That might be near a chord position, or you just want to get different voicing. So that's where I want to start here. Now, we're going to cover just this little House of Blues in position 2 here. House of Blues on the E, B, and G strings, which is here. We talked about this a little bit in the last lesson. So if I go up here to 5, 8, then I go to 8, 10, 8, 10, and 9, right? So it looks like a little house upside down, but when you look at it on paper. But this is sort of the peak of the roof, and these are the walls. And we call it, some people call it the House of Blues, you know? So we're gonna work on position 1 and position 2, but just the little House of Blues part here. If you know the other notes, that's great. If you know these other notes, if you know the scale, great. But we're gonna cover that and this. And then I'm going to also kind of skip position 3 here because I call it the connector. That's for later use. And then position 4 and 5, we're going to cover a little bit because I want to show you, even though you may not have all this stuff memorized yet, I want to show you how they interplay with chords, so that I think it'll help you learn these patterns too. So we're going to actually cover 4 of the 5 patterns today and show you how they overlay with chords, and I think that will help your memory in terms of understanding the patterns here. Okay, so that, again, this is all in your handout. Let's make this, make myself a little smaller here for the time being. So you'll never get lost on a fretboard during a solo when you're using the staircase knowledge. And so 4 of the 5 pentatonic scale shapes closely map to bar chord shapes. And I put a little chart here so that you can kind of see what I'm talking about. Now the numbering again is all the minor numbering. And we're going to cover positions 1, 2, 4, and 5. These are the minor scale position sequence. And if you look at a major scale, the numbers will be different. But we're going to stick with minor because that's what most people do, and I think it'll be helpful. You might want to print this out so you don't have to go back and forth. You might want to print this document out for the lesson. Let's go back to close-up. So let's go back to let's go back to position 1, and we'll take it from 8-5, right? 8-5, 8-5, 7-5, 7-5, 7-5. This maps to an E minor shape. Now this is an A minor chord, but it's an E minor shape. And if you look at the handout, I call it, it maps to an E minor, because here's an E, here's an E, here's an E minor. You pull your E minor up here, you've got an A minor, or a G minor, or an E minor. So position 1 maps perfectly to this chord. Now in this case, on the 5th fret, it's an A minor, but the shape is E minor. So I could like have an A minor chord going, and I could do some things. They go together. But the other thing this position 1 does, it also supports solos for the A-shaped relative minor. So the A-shaped major, A-shaped relative major. So the minor is A minor, but the major is C, right? And we said if we played it up here, we get the major C scale. But I could play a C chord right here, at the ground floor here, on the ground bass, and that's like this, an A shape. So I have an A chord, move it up here to the 2nd fret, I got a B chord, got a C chord. So right here, there's an overlay between C and A minor. If I cover the 4 strings here, I have part of the A minor. Right? If I cover a few more up, it's an A minor. It's the E minor shape doing an A minor. But I can get a C out of it too, which means I can play this, starting with a C and emphasizing the C notes. Playing a C when I do this. I'm just hitting these three strings here, the D, the G, and the B. Like an A, Slide up here, I got a C. The full bar chord looks like this. But so you can see it better, I'm just showing you with these three fingers here, the way it's like an A shape. So this pentatonic shape number 1 can cover an A minor. And if you're at a different fret, if I'm at the 7th fret, now this E minor shape is creating a B minor, right? And the B minor, the relative major for that is D. So I could play this A, C, D. So this D major ties in very tightly with this B minor. So I could play this position 1 pattern with the B minor, and I could play with the B minor, and I could also play it with the D major. So the concept here is to have this understanding that when you're looking at position 1, that we call our ground floor, right? This position 1 right here, that it can be used with both an E minor shape and an A shape. An E minor for the minor chord and an A shape for the relative major, as I just demonstrated. Right, so this is got a little bit hard to wrap your head around, but you know it works beautifully because you have a C and an A minor, the relative minor. But I could use the same. Just like I emphasize when I'm playing the C, I might land and start with the C note more so. So if I'm playing a C chord here. If an A minor is being played, I'll use more of the A. Sorry, that was an E. That was a C. So that position could support both chords. So you could solo over both those chords with this position if you know how to do it. Now you do. All right, let's look at position number 2. Number 2, we're going to focus on mostly just this little blues box thing here. I'll demonstrate the whole thing. But when I show you how this little blues box works, and this little the House of Blues here works with chords, it'll be easier to learn it. So now we go back to position 2. It'll cover an E shape chord, E shape, regardless of where you play it, and a D minor, which is the relative minor. So let me show you. So now, if I take this shape here, and let's say I want to play a C chord here, this is an E shape of a C chord, right? So now, if I take that, I'm sorry, I scratch that. I go back to the C chord, and I play this little blues box. I don't expect you to know all that. I'm half looking at the screen and half looking at what I'm doing, getting a little disoriented. But this C here fits perfectly with the House of Blues. See it right here? This is the full E shape. Taking the E, sliding it up here to the C, right? So when this chord shape is being played, C, I can use this box to go with it. Or if you're playing a C here, I mean, it's easier to use position 1, but you could slide right into position 2. Hopefully you could follow that, but I was connecting position 1 with position 2. But when I start here, this is a C chord. Now I'm using position 1 as the C major, starting with the 8th fret, right? Now, the other thing you could do with this position, this little house of blues, is play a D minor relative, a D minor shape. So if I take a D, the little triangle, right, and I make it a D minor, so it's an F, an A, and a D. F, A, and D. First fret, then third fret with my ring finger, and second fret with my middle finger. If I slide it up here, I'm playing now an A minor. And I can get another note if I play it like this. If I put my ring finger on the 10th fret of the D, and the middle finger on the 9th fret of the G, and my pinky on the 10th fret of the B, and my index finger on the 8th fret of the E, I can play D minor like that, or I can play it with just 3 notes like that. So there's a D minor shape, but I'm playing an A minor. So here this shape then, position number 2, gives me notes I could solo around this chord, a C chord, and notes I could also solo around A minor, right? And my pinky is on the A note, which is the 10th fret of the B string, which is telling me this is an A minor, right? But I'm taking the D minor shape and sliding it up to the until my finger is on the 10th fret. This finger is on the 10th fret. Or I could add one more note by moving over to the 10th fret of the D string. So this little box here, if I have to support some soloing around a C chord here, I don't have to move anywhere else. I can just stay here. And if an A minor comes along, which is in the same key, so that's two more. Using the second position, you could also cover the C and the C chord in the E shape and the A minor in the D minor shape. So to review, if we go back to position 1 for a second, I do an A minor here in the first position, position 1, right? But I could also cover the C. And again, you want to emphasize, if you're playing a C chord, for simplicity, you emphasize, later on you learn different things, but you emphasize beginning or ending on a C note. Right? And if I'm playing an A minor, I'll emphasize the A note. So I've got my C chord, and an A minor, and I could also play a C chord here, and an A minor here, at the second position, and still play the second position notes for both chords. So there's 2 shapes that you've learned, and how to play major, minor chords around those to support those chords when soloing. And it's a little hard to get your head wrapped around it, but that's kind of that's where we're at with this. And now let's skip. I call the position 3 the connector, because it doesn't map well with a chord, but it's good to help to connect position 2 and position 4, of course, when sliding up and down the neck. But let's go to position 4. Position 4 looks a little funky, right? This is position 4 here. But if you look at how you could use position 4, so you could use position 4. So position 4 supports a D-shaped chord and an A minor shaped chord. So let's look at this up close. So if I look at, let's say, okay, here's a D-shaped chord, right? If I slide it up to this fret here, which is the 9th fret, right? That is a G. It's a G note. If I make my little D shape, I have a G chord, but it's a D shape. So this position here, which again I know the position, but position number 4 supports playing a chord here. You can play it a little more fully like this, a G, but it's basically a D shape. A D shape playing a G chord. And I can play position 4 right here. There's a little 3. So this is a common bend. That in this position. So now you have the D shape, but you also have an A minor shape there, and I'll show you. So if I'm playing a G here, an A minor shape is like A minor shape, right? Let me get the right spot here. A minor shape, like an A, but a flatted third, A minor. If I come up here to where the D is, I'm playing an E minor. Now guess what? E minor is the relative minor of G. So the notes really are very similar in this position. So I got a G chord here, and I change it a little bit by putting my pinky down. I've got E minor. Now you got to remember that the relative minors have used the same notes, have notes from the same scale. So the relative minor has some notes from the same scale as the major, right? We learned that in the beginning with this major C and the minor A minor. So you get the same thing here. You got a G chord played like basically a D, but I got one more note in here on the D string. I'm just putting one more note in. Its relative minor is E minor. So I can play this position 4, to support a song that's hitting an E minor chord or a song that's hitting a G chord. I'm just connecting different positions. This stuff takes some time to learn all this, and we'll do one more now. We'll do position 5. So position 5. Okay, so let's take a look at position 5. Position 5 is pretty easy too because it's pretty symmetric. So this is 4 that we just did. 4 right here, which we had we demonstrated the G major in the D shape, the G major in the D shape, and the E minor in the A minor shape. It takes some time to wrap your head around this stuff. I even have to think about it when I'm trying to explain it. I can play this like more fluidly without thinking about it. If I have to think about it and explain it, I have to think about it. And it's not as intuitive. Position 5 is pretty symmetric. And let's play position 5 down where the C and the A minor are. So if I go down here to play position 5, I'll be doing 5-3, 5-3, 5-2, 5-2, 5-3, 5-3. So it's 5-3, 5-3, 5-2, 5-2, 5-3, 5-3. Right? You got that pattern? Let's look at it again. It's this pattern right here, but I'm playing it between 5 and 3 and 5 and 2. So what that's giving me is position 5, which supports a C major chord. It's the A shape. Here's an A chord, right? I play it up here. It's a C chord. Just play this piece so you can see better what I'm doing. And I can play this 5th position. And guess what? This connects to the E minor. E minor shape, which is the A minor chord at 5th fret. So this shape here can be played with A minor. So that 5th position, we've gone full circle, because this is the 1st position for A minor, right? And now we've gone 1, 2 is the House of Blues, 3 we skipped, 4 we played, but we played it down here, and then 5 we're back. We've gone full circle on the fretboard, and we're going right underneath, sort of the ground floor here. But now we're playing position 5. We're playing position 5 because we want to have notes that go with the A minor. right? So I just realized as I'm playing this, I don't want to confuse you, because I said earlier that, remember now, this is the ground level. If I play the first position down here, I'm going from an A minor to an A major. But I'm not playing the first position here. Now I'm playing the fifth position. So because I'm playing the fifth position here, below ground level here, below the ground floor in the staircase, these notes will support the A minor. So this fifth position here goes right into the first position, which goes right into the second position, the House of Blues. And that goes into the third position, which is more like a connector. But then I've got this fourth position right here, which is the, what we said before, the A minor shape. There's the A minor right here at the 12th fret, at the 13th and 14th, at the 13th and 14th fret, right above the 12. So it's this A minor here, up to the next octave, just above the 12th fret. And I could support an A minor here. That's that. You gotta look at that position 4. So I think as you have this thing printed out, you can refer to it. And guess what? A minor. Now what's the major for relative minor? C, which is also here. I could play a little D C chord, a D-shaped C chord, right? So this shape, position 4, supports that the way we did with the G and the B minor. I could support and solo around an A minor. I can also solo around a C major, right? So I hope that helps. I mean, there's a lot of information here that takes some time for it to sink in and to sort of get it wrapped in your head and on your fingers, obviously. But trust me, once you know it, and if you practice it pieces at a time, just focus on the different things you can do in position 1 based on this chart here. Just focus on position 1 and study this, position 1, and get that wrapped around your head and under your fingers. And then maybe a week or two later, you go to position 2 and 5 and 4 and 5. And then, we could talk about 3, but 3 really just connects things. It connects these two. There really isn't a chord that overlays this too well. I mean, in some respects, this little piece here is a little overlaps with position 4, so that's the little D-shaped major chord you could put in. So when you're getting to the upper level of position 3, you're overlaying with the bottom layer, the lower notes in position 4, and you got the same little triangle here, and you can play a little major chord in the top half of position 3. So there are little things you can do, and what's nice is these notes here between 8 and 10 are very symmetric. So it's some nice to be able to hit some bass notes in here sometimes too in position 3, but that might take some time to get to it. But I think if you go through this chart here and print it out and little by little practice what this chart is saying, and remember, here we're talking about shapes. This isn't the E minor chord. This is the E minor shape and the A shape, because this position 1 could be moved anywhere. It could be E minor. This E minor shape could be here at the A, and a C is the A shape, right? A shape playing C. Or I can move it here and play a B minor, right? With the E minor shape, E minor shape, and a D chord. And guess what? The D, its natural minor is B minor. D and B minor, right? C and A minor. So, and there's a simple way to kind of know. Let me show you one more chart. This lesson's going on a little long. This chart here, so this chart shows, hold on, let me pull up both. Sorry. So this chart here shows the major scales and the relative minors. Not all of them. We'll cover all of them when we cover the circle of fifths, which is more more detailed theory. But essentially, as you know, C major, its relative minor is A minor. D major, as we demonstrated, its relative minor is B minor. But all you have to do is count up 6. Now again, let's first go through how you figure out the relative minors easily, and then I can help explain how you can. This will help you with your soloing, knowing different positions. So if you're on a major scale like C, count up to the 6th note, like I said, I think in the second or third lesson. So C, D, E, F, G, A. The 6th note is A, so A minor is the relative. The only time it gets a little funky is if you have, and I think I mentioned this in the last video, if you have an A, a B, or an E. If you have a major scale that's A, B, or E, which spells Abe, like Abe Lincoln, these are going to be sharped. So E here, as you can see, E, A, and B, it's the 6th note. A major, A, B, C, D, E, F is the 6th note, but because it's part of the Abe acronym, I know it's F minor sharp. So whenever a scale, a major scale starts with A, B, or E, think of Abe Lincoln and count up 6, but then make it sharp. Okay, and that's, you can see that here: A, B, F minor sharp, G minor sharp, and E is C minor sharp. Okay, and then it's sort of the reverse. If you have a G minor, a C minor, F minor. Oh, before I even say that, if let's say you're in an A minor, you're in a song that's playing A minor, that's the key, and I want to know quickly what the C major is, count up 3. So you count, if you're in a count up 6 notes from the major scale to find the relative minor, and then count up 3 notes from the minor scale to find the major. So that's a quick reference, if you can remember that. The way you count up 6 to find the relative minor for a major. If I'm in a minor, like let's say B minor, at the 7th fret, I'm playing an E-shaped B minor, I count up 3, B, C, D. D major is the major that goes with B minor. So it's nice to know this, and we're going to learn more about the relative majors and minors and some other keys that aren't here, the odd keys that aren't used much. They call them enharmonic keys, which is a whole other conversation. But it's nice to know because I could get, as long as I know, if I know the relative minor, if I know D, I'm playing an A-shaped D between the 5th and 7th frets. If I know the relative minor is B minor, I can find notes all over the place. Here's a B minor here. Here's a B, right? An A-shaped B. If I flatten the 3rd, I get a B minor, which means I can play the 4th position here. B minor, or I could play it here. Here, or here. So I know I can play the 4th position because this is an A-shaped B minor, and I could play the 1st position in the B minor here. So I can move around the fretboard if I know where the relative minors are. I can also play a B minor here, which is like position 2 in the minor sequence. Here's a D minor, right? The standard D minor, D, flatten the 3rd, take the F sharp, make it an F. There's a D. If I slide it up to here, this is a B minor. So what? Right, that B minor goes with the D major. D major, the relative minor is B minor. Or you could play it like I was showing you with the A minor, with an extra note with this, if you move over. That's a D minor. Well, this is a D minor just with 3 notes. This is a D minor with 4th note, adding in the 12th fret on the D string. So I know I could play this 2nd position according to the sequence in the minor scale for a D major, E-shaped D major, or D minor shaped B minor. So I hope that helps, but the concept is if you understand these two things here, if you understand how to find the relative majors, the relative minors, and the majors that the relative minors come from, and again, you got to remember, these are the same notes being played in C and A minor. It's the same notes. It's just that you're emphasizing a C here, you're emphasizing an A here. When I was up on the 12th fret here, playing a D and B minor, I'm in the 2nd position, right? I'm in this position here. I'm using this position, and actually I can use this shape here for a B minor, that's a D minor shape, or a D major, that's an E minor shape, right? So it takes some while to wrap this, but I think this particular lesson pulls a lot of information together. And then, as I said earlier, once you know what chords go with what shape, chord shapes, what chord shapes go with pentatonic shapes, regardless of where you are in the neck, right? That's going to change whether you're an A minor, a B minor, or a D minor. But the shapes, so you have to, don't confuse the shape, the E minor shape and the A shape with the E minor chord. So these are all movable. And then if you know the relative minors, like I showed you, you can move around the neck a lot more easily, because I know a D major, like I said earlier, or I could take another, I can do another real quick one. Let's see, if I do a G major, that goes with an E minor. So a G major, A, B, C, D, I'm sorry, A, B, C, D, E, E major, sorry, a G, an E minor goes with a G major. So this is E, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Finally got it. So I just know the G is here. I just not used to counting up. I just know it's here. So if I got a G major, the relative minor is G, A, B, C, D. G, A, B, C, D, E. So a G major is, its relative minor is E minor. So I could play an E minor here, right? This is E minor. E minor goes with a G. So I could play that fifth position. Sorry. And tie right into the E minor shape, which is using the fourth position. And this is the first position, right? Position 1. But up here I'm playing it as an E minor, right? Because here's the E. So I got E minor going on. So this one is the easiest to remember because it's E minor shape. E minor shape playing an E minor chord. And then I could reach down here and use the fifth position to play the G major that's associated with the E minor. It's probably a lot of information, and I apologize if it's maybe a little overwhelming, but I think that this particular lesson pulls a lot together, and it might be beyond a beginner. I think intermediate players will maybe find it more useful. But if you break this apart and study each position individually, and study, like take this first position here, and study this, and move it around, and think about the staircase ground floor, how you can play a major or minor with that, and then think about this chart here, and say, okay, what chords can I play with that position? What chord shapes can I play with it? Then you're getting the power of tying the pentatonic scale to the chords, which gives you the ability to follow the chord changes when you're doing a solo. So that said, I think I'll stop here. And again, this is an easy way of figuring out on the fly, without having to look at a chart like this. You can figure out on the fly, from a major to a minor, count up 6. If the major scale is an A, B, or E, like Abe Lincoln, add a sharp. And if you're on a minor scale, count up 3. So A minor to C is A, B, C, and I know my major. So this is a complicated lesson. I totally get it that this is not a simple lesson, but there's a lot of information here, and I think if you take your time and break it apart and study pieces at a time, you'll get some value out of it. So I'll stop here because it looks like a long. Maybe I should have broken this into 2 lessons, but I think it all sort of goes together. Have fun. Take a piece at a time, and you will get there, but it takes some time. It's not overnight. Ciao for now, and next lesson we'll actually play a song. We'll take part of the knowledge from this, and we're going to play a rock and roll song on the guitar, a pretty popular one. So get ready for that one next. Bye now.